Here we go. Sorry, I think I just messed up something with my Spotify, so let me fix that and then we'll get started. I was just messing around with my stream setup so that it actually shows when people do things like follow and all that. I'm still new to this whole Twitch thing. Get this up in the chat as well. Okay. Can you guys hear the music at all, or is that not coming through? Guess I can check on my own. Doesn't look like it's coming through. That's because it's not. All right. What if I do that? Aha! We have music. All right. Hopefully that's not too loud. But anyway, let's get into it this week. Welcome. Welcome back for those of you who have been here for a long time. My name is Cheese Doodle. If you're new here, I'm a member of the TagPro Steering Committee and Future Group, which is basically just the group of people assigned with updating, improving, fixing, whatever you want to call it, the game TagPro. And if you don't know what TagPro is, because you just stumbled upon all of this, it is a free-to-play browser game. You can find it at tagpro.gg. It is short 6-minute games of capture the flag, just like you played back when you were in elementary school, but everyone is a ball. And you can see that homepage in front of me right now. So all free to play, no sign up required. You can find it at tagpro.gg. The goal of this stream, just like all our other streams, we're going to go through our recent development progress from the last week, starting from last Friday. Then we will switch from that over to our community feedback form, go through all the things people are wanting us to do. Grant, did you send that a while ago, not hearing any, or was that just now? Anyway, we'll go through feature requests, and then we're going to switch over and go live with our new feature request board on Discord, and I'll talk through the details of that when we get there. And then, as usual, we will finish up with a feature building session where we talk through some of the more lofty goals, I guess you can call it, that we want to get done sometime in the future, just so we can start to get those details nailed down sooner rather than later. But all of that starts from the beginning, last Friday. It's all good now, thank you. Which puts us at, I believe, the 27th, is it? Yeah, 27th of March. So let me scroll back up in our updates channel here real quick. For those of you who have been here for a while, you'll know that the next major focus that we are aiming toward is the in-game shop. And we are much farther along than I even expected to be at this point, which is really good news. So I'll have some more to share on that in a moment. But most of what you're going to hear is centered around bug fixes from the previous release and then the shop in the near future. So last Friday evening, we went live with a couple fixes. The Phoenix Flare was the main thing that people were seeing. It was getting awarded, but they weren't actually seeing it on their profile. That has been patched up, and you see some players running around with it enabled now, which is good to see. I kind of like it a lot. I don't know if anyone else feels differently, but I feel like it looks really, really good in game. So shout out to Glass Marble for helping us put that together. Then we had a fix for the leaderboard tab. Over here, it was showing your games for whatever on previous seasons, which is not important information on previous seasons. You only care about it for the current season. So that is working as expected now. Cosmetic fixes to the leaderboard that I'm excited about. These weren't really scheduled, but they just kind of made sense while we were changing other things. If you look at any leaderboard and you scroll and you find someone who does not have a flare enabled, you will see that now there's a gap where their flare would be instead of their name being shunted over to the left. And it had this weird like back and forth that I absolutely hated before. that is not the case anymore. Now you've got a nice clean line of all the player names showing up on the leaderboard. And I think that also went into effect somewhere else, maybe in the launcher page, if I'm not mistaken. But that was the main part of that. Then we had ensure timestamp for season end. Oh, that's right. There was a bug that I talked about with the season reset. We had a problem with players who had not actually met the activity requirements being counted as active. Nothing we can really do about it at this point. It doesn't change a whole lot for this season, but that'll be fixed going into the next season now. So we don't need to think about it. Then the next couple of things were preliminary updates to the shop, kind of getting the view ready of all the flares that we're going to be offering, and then the text that we're putting underneath all of the flares is important. We got that finalized, and then a big change that doesn't really change anything on the front end, but for us, we changed the what do you call it? The list of all the flares, what their coordinates are on the flare PNG, their text, all that. It used to be a big JSON, which is fine, like it works, but it's a little annoying to keep track of. So we changed it over to a CSV, which is just going to make it a little easier to update, because we are planning to add a few more flares at a bit more of a regular cadence going forward, now that the shop is kind of an easy place to give you all flares to use. So that is just a little thing to remove one more barrier for us, as we like to keep adding things in the future. So that should be useful. More review came in for the Versus tab that I've mentioned. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. For those who missed that, on the profile page, we're adding another tab. It's similar to your stats, but it's just a different kind of stat, which is your head-to-head stats against other players. So you can see in casual and ranked in different regions, how well do you perform with and against certain players. That is also going to show up in the launcher, so you can see if one of your teammates is somebody you win a lot with, or one of your opponents is somebody you lose a lot against. It'll display both of those in the launcher, just to give you a little more information, just a fun little thing. So that's not quite ready yet, but it should be in for the next release, as long as it keeps moving along as expected. So another review came in a couple nights ago, and that is that for now. Then we've got a fix to account merges. We realized that the season flares, which are now your match, your campfire, and your phoenix, for those of you who have earned it already, that is going to persist if you merge two accounts together. Previously, it was wiping out those flares, so you would lose them in an account merge, but that is fixed and good to go. Forgot to close my closet door. Nope, not happening. Whatever. After that, we had a big back-end change that I have been working on, that I don't know why I started this. I think I was, I actually know exactly why I started this. I was trying to work on the new feedback board, and I was doing that, and I realized I wanted a different tag for internal tracking, so I could mark high, medium, and low priority items, which is kind of similar to what we were doing on the Miro board, for those who remember that. Let me pull that up real quick. So the Miro board, we had taken a bunch of different features that we'd already talked about and planned, and we broke them down into things that are high priority, medium priority, and low priority. Sorry for the big white flash. I was looking at this, and I was like, this is, I mean, it's not a beautiful thing to look at, but it is nice to know, like, what things do we think should be done sooner, what things kind of intermediate, and what things are just kind of like, eventually we get to it and it's fine. And we don't really have a system internally for that to help developers pick what stuff to work on. So right now, everything kind of goes through me. I say, I think we should work on these things. If you want something else, that's okay. But these are the stuff that I think we should be prioritizing. And then I would go to this and I would look and figure out what it is. But as the team gets a little bit larger and moves a little bit more quickly, it is beneficial for developers to be able to just go find a thing that interests them and start working on it without having to go through me over and over again. So I realized we don't have any tagging internally on our tickets to mark things as high, medium, and low priority. So I made those tags, and then I went to our list of, what are we at now? 239 open tickets that we have internally for things that we want to do. So there's a lot that can be done. We have a lot of ideas, just not a lot of time. And so I was looking at the list of all the things we have to do, and I was trying to assign the high, medium, and low tags to them. And I got to one, and I was like, well, why haven't we done that yet? And it was like a really old, it was like the 30th one ever submitted back in 2022 or something, or 21. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to do this now. So I started it, and it was a terrible idea because it was miserable. So internally, we have a a database, as you know. It's MongoDB, and in order to save things to the database from a coding standpoint, you have to get the document that you want, make your changes, and then send the document back, basically. But the way we were doing that is an outdated way of doing that, where you take a document and you directly modify that document and then save whatever document you modified, which is bad because if you think about concurrency, if I am on a certain tab of the website and I want to change my flare, for example, if I click that flare button, this computer goes to the database, it grabs that document, and it brings it back to me, and then it takes the flare that I just selected and it changes out that field in the document and sends it back to the database with that update. Now, at face value, that makes a lot of sense, but if while I am doing that, something else happens somewhere on the site, maybe this isn't what would happen, but it just for the sake of the description here, if I'm also in a game at the same time and the game finished and I was updating my stats because I won the game, the purple glow, that is the random selector. If you have random selected, anything purple is your random rotation of flares. But if I finished a game and I had that updated at the same time that I was clicking this flare here, the database document that I grabbed to update the flare, then send back, would have the old stats from before that other game finished. So if those two things happen at the same time, you might overwrite one of your changes with the other older outdated change because of how we were doing that. So I went to update all of those flows so that you only update the exact field that was changed, which is the modern flow. But it sucked because we have this flow everywhere. And it's the source of a lot of bugs that we've had in the past that we've had to kind of weed down the edge cases for. We've gotten most of the ones that were happening a lot. If you remember, there were group issues for a very long time where it thought that you were in a different group or you would launch in a group and you wouldn't get into a game. A lot of those stemmed from the problem that I just described with concurrency. So all of that should be fixed now, but I started it thinking it was going to be like an hour or two just to break up my day and not have to worry about the tags for a little bit. And it turned into a 4-day project that I'm just like pulling my hair out with. So it's done. It's ready for review now. But that was most of my week, was working on that. It's okay, Fly, you're doing great. So that is in and ready for review. It'll probably go in with the next release. It's lower priority because it's not fixing anything that's actually broken and it's not actually changing anything, but it does give us a better foundation for building new features in the future, which is why I thought it was good to do. So then we've got some more fixes or updates to the shop. Again, I'm not going to show you guys the shop just yet because it's going to be in for testing this weekend, and then I'll have an update next Friday on the timeline with that. But Bash was working pretty hard on that for the last few days. So most of the comments that I'm going by right now are just updating the stuff he'd been working on with the shop itself. So that is the bulk of what was done over the last week. Again, a lot was done. There's not a lot of show right now, so I can't really display anything that was worked on, but we are moving along a little bit faster than expected on the shop. So it's ready for review now. It'll go through a couple developers looking at it, making sure it looks the way we want it, making sure that the aesthetics, if you will, are serviceable, I guess is the word. And then hopefully within the next month, I'm thinking we'll go live with the shop and a bunch of other stuff that we have in progress as well. So if you have questions specific to that, feel free to ask, but if not, I'm going to leave it at that. There is a pinned form in the chat, as you all know. If you have any questions for me that you would like to ask anonymously, feel free to fill that form out. I check those responses every week on the stream, but I have nothing from last week. So that's all from a development standpoint. Then we're going to move on to the feedback tab, and we have a little bit to talk about here. So feedback tab as it is, those of you who have been tuning in know that this is outdated now. We don't have the ability to update the tags on these, so we are moving away from it. We got that up and running. Shout out to Grant, who I think is in the chat, for helping me port over all of these tickets. That was not a small task at all. So we have a thread now on the Discord. And so the goal of this change is basically to keep the same functionality where you can say, I want to add this to the game, or I think this should be fixed, and then us allowing you to get updates on that request. So if you say, I want to have an FPS cap that we'll talk about in a minute, I can mark that and say, yes, we are considering it. Yes, we are currently working on it, or yes, we have done this now. And so it'll give you the ability to know if that thing that you wanted to have done is actually moving along. And so we couldn't do it anymore with Canny because they priced us out of their free plan. But on Discord, which I'm going to enable everyone to see now, we have a very similar like infinite scroll kind of thing where you can submit requests and bug reports and all of that. So I have just unlocked the ability for everybody to view that channel on Discord. I'm going to show it on the stream too, so don't feel like you have to go running to find that. But If I switch this over real quick, you will see that it is a very, very long list of things. And so these are all the tickets that people had previously submitted to the Canny board. It's all the exact same stuff. It's all of the comments. If you had a response to somebody else and we had marked like an update, it's all marked the way that it was on Canny. Again, shout out to Grant for doing that for me. Then we've also got a ticketing system. So you can see you've got some marked as under review. You've got some marked as planned. Some are in progress. Some are closed, etc. So anything that is already on the board has been brought over, except for things that were submitted in the last 24 hours. So you can also sort by feature requests and bug reports. And the nice thing about this on Discord is that we can keep things somewhat contained. So if you have a bug report, we could probably start to do them on this as well. And we can have a whole conversation about that bug report in the associated thread. So I think it'll work pretty well. My one kind of gripe with this is that there wasn't any way for us to put it onto the actual TagPro website. And we did figure out a solution for that as well. We were testing it last night. I think I can display it real quick. Just give me 1 second to pull that up and we'll see how it looks. But basically there is a different, I guess company is the word for it, that hosts a bot on Discord that allows you to display everything on a website. So let me pull up my local instance real quick and show you guys what it looks like. So this is a quick and dirty implementation. It doesn't look very good yet, but it's a way of allowing Discord to be presented in an iframe on a website. So if I get this to load, oh good, it's not going to load. Still working on that part, but it was working before. There we go. So you can see this is the exact same view as what you just saw on the Discord. If I kind of go between the two of them, you can see it's the same board, just a slightly different view. And so the nice thing about this is you can log in through this iframe and you can still be yourself and you can still go into a ticket and say things. So you'll see this was me responding through my browser versus me responding in the thread itself. So they are different because it says that it's guest or it says that it's an app sending this message, but it does allow you to just actually leave feedback without going to Discord and logging in and all of that. So even if you don't have a Discord account and you watch these streams or you want to see the feedback that's coming in, you can still scroll through all of this. Unfortunately, it doesn't allow you to leave posts, which is a really big negative in my opinion. I feel like it's really nice to be able to go to this tab and just submit feedback, but it's better than the alternative of not having anything. So you can still respond to comments. You can still see something you like. You can still go in and you can say, I think this is a really good idea or whatever. And you can send that message as yourself, but it doesn't let you do anything more than that. You can't even upvote, which I think is a real bummer. But yeah, you can do all that on Discord though. If you go to Discord, there are little updoke emotes and you can click on them and it'll add that. So if everyone updokes something, it'll go to the top and we will know that people want to see that feature. So same exact idea as what the feature request board was before, just a slightly different implementation. Better versus worse, it's just different. I don't think it has some benefits that the other one didn't. I think it's going to be a good excuse to get rid of the suggestions channel on the Discord, which has been misused for a very long time because people are submitting feature requests for the game to that channel, but we don't have any way of tracking those. Now we do have a way of tracking those with this forum. So I think it'll at least work for the next couple of months. If we decide that it's not a perfect long-term solution, we can always move away from it, but we're going to trial it. So if you have things you want to be changed, what's that? Anons being able to interact. No, Anduin. So there is an option to allow guests to use it. I disabled that option. So you could see before there was an option for people to just pick any name they want and put a comment. And I decided that was a terrible, terrible idea for the reasons you just described. But if you can log into your own Discord account and it will use your own Discord name, I don't have a problem with that because that's the exact same as anybody joining the public server and using it. So I think we're okay on that front. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, no, this is awful because look, it just puts like a creepy little emote. I don't even know what to call that thing. It's avatar, I guess, but it creeped me out. I didn't like it. So yeah, not allowing that. Maybe add a simple bot to submit on TP page where it posts the board. Oh, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, maybe like we can have a separate box below that says submit your own kind of thing and have that attached to a different bot that we make, and that bot posts it directly to the site so that it takes your name, maybe even your TagPro reserve name, and it posts it to the board on Discord. Yeah, actually, that could definitely. Let me make a note of that real quick. That should work fine. But for site submissions. Perfect. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, Fly. Thank you. I'll give that a try later today. But for now, this is what we got. So feel free to give it a try. Put a comment in or leave some feedback if you have something you've been sitting on. I know a lot of people have already submitted the stuff that they want to actually work on, but it's there. So that'll be live probably with the shop. We'll have this actual switched over. It's going to stay as the canny board until the next release, just because it's kind of hard to do a half release. This also has so many bugs and console errors because I just did a quick and dirty implementation, but we'll get that cleaned up before it actually goes live. So I'm feeling pretty good about that for now. Again, thank you, Grant, for helping me bring all of those tickets over. That was a huge, huge undertaking to get all those done. So that is that. Let's talk about the things that people actually added to the board over the last couple of days. There wasn't a whole lot coming in. Let's see if we can find. I think we talked about that one last week from Past the Flag. Allow sitting. This one I feel like we've seen before. Allow sitting out in neutral flag or capture the flag games in pubs. Hello, Rad Dude. Welcome. I play from the EU on US servers most of the time. I'm totally uncompetitive in neutral flag. It's honestly no fun at all. I would rather wait a little longer until a CTA. Okay, so this player is saying that they want to be able to pick neutral flag versus capture the flag in casual games, which we don't allow people to do. I'm not sure there's a whole lot we can do to honor this request. I get why someone would want to do this. I think it's a very reasonable thing to ask. There's no real mechanism for us to do that because the way that a map is selected in casual is it's weighted. So you've got a rotation of maps. Here's a little behind the scenes. You've got a rotation of maps, and then each map has a weight. So you can see anything that's got casual selected and a weight as in the casual pool. And you've got your classics and your throwbacks down farther that you see the trial maps have 0.75 weight, the classics have 0.5 weight, and then the throwbacks have 0.1 weight. So what it does is it takes all of those weights and it puts them into a pool basically, and it picks a random map, a weighted random, out of that selection, and it doesn't care if it's neutral flag or capture the flag at that time. So by the time you get into the game is finding out if it's neutral flag or capture the flag at the same time that you are. It doesn't know ahead of time to allow you to pick one or the other. So this is not viable, unfortunately. Due to the map selection process, it is not currently possible for us to allow game mode selections in casual matchmaking. Go. Then we've got display a personal win rate for each map when voting and ranked. Is there a reason an additional parameter can't be added to designate a map as CTF or NF? Well, it's not that they're not designated. They are. Oh, you mean during like the weighted selection? Oh yeah, it could definitely be done from that standpoint. It would have to be two separate pools, and you would have to. Well, the other consideration is if you have people who are only selecting neutral flag or only selecting capture the flag for that person's example, you have to know that even before the match is created. So right now you take 8 players and you say, okay, these all players have US East selected. I'm going to make a game. After I've made the game, now I'm going to pick a map. So you'd have to go even farther back and say even before they're matched together, you don't allow people who don't have overlapping game modes to be connected. And that's what we do for ranked. It's keeping everyone separate. But you'll also note that for ranked, wait times go up as a result of that. You have fewer players for each specific game mode. It's less likely that a game will be created. And the whole idea behind casual is that you want games to be happening pretty consistently. You don't want players sitting around waiting for a game to happen because they're waiting for the perfect matchup. It's casual. Play a game and enjoy it. And so even for that player's standpoint, they say that they're not competitive, but it's casual. It's kind of par for the course. You've got players who are brand new to the game. They might also be uncompetitive, but they're still playing because they enjoy TagPro. So we can't really use that as an excuse to kind of restructure everything, even though the justification, again, makes perfect sense. It's just not really viable with what we're working with right now. So Would be nice to know your historic win rate stat for each map when voting for maps in ranked. Yes, Anduin. Like a lot of things, this is very much a very doable thing if you added a 0 to the number of players that we have, but not at the moment. I'm trying to decide if this is something that we've already done in the head-to-head stats or if this is a new feature that we can work with. And my secondary consideration, and sorry, you guys can't read this. I'm a little bit hesitant to go ahead with this because if you are in the map voting screen and you see one map that you have a high win rate on and one map that you have a low win rate on, are you always going to pick the high win rate map? And if so, is that a good or a bad thing? Like, I wouldn't want people to just to look at the higher number and always pick the higher number, you know? Like, I want you to actually pick the map that you want to play on. And I'm not sure if this is too much information, but at the same time, you kind of get a feel as you play for the game, the maps that you're good at and the maps that you're bad at, and you're probably more likely to pick the ones that you're good at because winning is more fun than losing. So is this, I don't know. I don't really have a problem with it. I'm just trying to make sure there aren't any secondary considerations that I'm missing that would make this a bad thing either. Anyone got anything on that? Yeah, I think this is fine to add a ticket for. It will balance out eventually. True. Display map win rates in ranked voting in ranked launcher, which is the launcher is the name for the map voting page on the back end. I think it would just be for that season, probably. Would you, like it's season 2 right now, would you include your season 1 win rate in the calculation, or would you say only season 2? Everyone can't have a higher than average win rate on a map. That is a very true statement. It's just math. I think I'm going to go with just the current season unless someone wants to make a case for otherwise. Each player's win. Play. I'm doing it. Possessive S. All right. Each player's win rate for each map on the, I don't know, on the page for that season. Do not display historical win rate, 0, or leave blank if it is the first time the player has seen that map for the season. I guess it wouldn't be seen if they haven't gotten onto it, if they haven't played any. Yeah, you get the point. I don't know how high effort this would be. I think this stat is probably somewhere in the head-to-head stats. I just don't think that we're explicitly working on it. So I'm going to say this is a enhancement, and I'm going to start adding these other tags to things as well. It's a low priority, but it's still fine to do. And then I'll mark this as planned. Internally, it's not yet been signed. Okay, just one more and then we can move on to feature building. Would it be possible to add an FPS cap? Another Firefox issue. I've been getting a lot of reports from Firefox users that they're having issues. From what I can tell, Firefox recently had an update to something that they do, and it's been having a lot of rendering issues for a lot of players. And I've seen mixed results with actually troubleshooting and fixing this. Like the response here says, Chrome has been working fine for players. It's nothing that we did. It has nothing to do with changes that we added, but a lot of Firefox users are seeing jumpy, laggy FPS problems. Hopefully this is something that Firefox is aware of and they're working on, and it'll just kind of resolve itself with time. I'm not sure that adding a cap on our end is really going to do anything for you. I will say that rather than make a ticket for this or anything, I'm just going to recommend this user come to Discord, because there have been some players helping troubleshoot this problem. So if you are having this problem as well, I would say come to the Discord and just mention it. There have been some conversations. We can link to you with some potential solutions. Maybe one will work for you, maybe not. So I'm going to say, please come to Discord and mention. Yeah, we only do 60 FPS anyway as our base. Like anything faster than that, you can technically get improvements at a 120, but it's not actually getting you more information. Firefox had a recent update which has caused rendering issues for a lot of users. We have some users helping others troubleshoot this. Switching to another browser may also be a good solution. Happy Friday, Timmy. Welcome to the stream. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So that is, I think, everything new. Did I sort by new? Yeah, that's everything new. Any bug reports that came in? I think it would help simplify this troubleshooting step and improve player retention if it were settable internally. Well, and I think part of that is what is the actual issue, right? Because your computer's refresh rate is part of the problem, your browser's refresh rate is part of the problem, and then TagPro's refresh rate. So it has to be those three things lining up. TagPro cannot itself dictate how frequently your screen refreshes. It cannot dictate how frequently your browser refreshes. So we have to give people these troubleshooting ideas because we don't have any control over those systems that are on the user's side of their experience. So it would be nice if we could do more to like have our game line up with what their computer is doing. I don't know a ton about that personally, but it's not something that we can just set on the game itself, as far as I'm aware, because the game loop runs every tick. It's 60 times a second. That's kind of the only control that we have. Like the most that we do with that is replays, where we control the speed of a replay. That does impact how frequently your game is refreshing. This is only doing 15, but it's not really the same, right? Because you get choppiness with this anyway. The movements seem a little unnatural. Most games run full screen, lower level. Yeah, this is the kind of thing that I would want to have a conversation with Bash and Orchid about. They have a little more background in this than I do. You're making a map but having a couple issues. Who can I talk to for help? You can go to the Maps General channel on Discord. There's a whole bunch of people who spend a lot of their time making maps. If you don't know how to find that, if you go to the TagPro homepage, scroll to the bottom, there's a Discord link. If you go to that Discord and just send a message anywhere, I can link you to that channel. But there are people who use the editor all the time in that channel. They can help you out with anything you need. What else? I think that's it for feature request stuff. I'm hoping that if people put stuff on the Discord thread that I get notifications for it. I haven't figured out how to... Like, I followed all of the posts that we have already, so if I get anyone comments anywhere, I'll see it, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay, I think that's enough for now. Let's move on to our feature building. We're only half an hour in, so we've got a lot of time for this one, which is probably for the best because it's a little bit of a troubleshooting one. Let me get a document set up. So I've been having a couple people reach out to me, and I was going through the old tickets, and this is the combination of those things is what prompted me to start this, because I saw some stuff that people had submitted way back. Like we're talking a year and a half, 2 years ago, early days of this board. And they were saying that they want some sort of way to display more of what they have done to contribute to the community. And so we've got like your flares, obviously, that show certain things you've done in events and whatnot. And we've got certain contributor flares. Like I have a developer flare, I have a future group flare. There are players like Moosin who have like a map test committee flare that shows that they do that. So there are ways that we show that you've done certain things for the game, but there isn't like a larger presentation of your overall contributions to the game. And I think what people wanted to have is just some sort of reflection of the time that you have spent on things other than playing the game. And so I don't have a huge plan for how to do that yet, but I do want to find, there's one ticket I want to find real quick. Was it achievements or was it contributions maybe? There we go. Is add community contributions to player profiles. So some easy examples here: music, texture packs, maps. Those are things that people spend time on that get added to the game. They are considered official because they're part of the game, and it would be nice for them to be kind of recognized more so than just having a flare that doesn't really indicate what they specifically did. Let me just take down my local instance so it doesn't crash my stream. So I want to talk through this a little bit and see if it maybe lines up with a previous recommendation about like a trophy case kind of thing as well. I'm not sure if or how those would interact, but that's kind of what we're here to explore a little bit. So the overall prompt is player contributions on the profile page. Players would like some reflex of time spent to show that they did something. EX, maps, music, texture packs. And so the secondary step of that would be unofficial things. So maybe if somebody did something in a league, if they had a championship or something like that, that could maybe be related. I'm not sure if I want to go down that rabbit hole just yet, but we have a lot of time today, so maybe we'll get that far. But for now, let's keep it with things that are official, things that you see on the site that are kind of site sponsored, if you will, and go from there. Yalpa says blunder. I don't know what that means in this context. But we've got maps. We don't have a list of the music on the site anywhere, but you know that it's at TagPro. Where is it? This right here. If you Google TagPro music, it'll pop up. It's a list of all of the songs that are currently in the game. You can listen to them at random, or you can select the one that you want to. You can download the file if you want. And so we've got all the creators of all the songs that we have. Not all of these have a TagPro name associated with them. Some of them just have a Reddit name. I'm not sure what to do with that, but anyway, that's another thing. So if it wasn't for anything in particular, well, I don't know what to do with that. So first question is, where would you actually show this? Because you've already got flares, so it's not that we would add another flare for it. It's not that it needs to change like the in-game appearance or anything like that, but it's some sort of on your profile identity of who you are. So if I'm looking at Moosin, I know that Moosin has created a lot of maps. Would there be another tab that says maps here? Would there be just a contributions tab and that has maps inside of it? I'm not sure if I like the first option, because if you have like a maps tab and then a music tab and then a texture packs tab, music and texture packs are going to be empty for 99% of the player base. So I think that if we had a tab that was just contributions, and then we could kind of build off of that. MC says you could add a tab next to stats and flare. Yes, I think a single tab with, we'll just call it contributions for now. Player profile next to stats, flares, titled contributions. And then inside of contributions, you would have 3 subcategories for now. Maps, music, texture packs. And I think that if a user has no contributions in that category, just hide it. Maybe something on the leaderboard page where it shows the community contributors. maybe. I'm not directly opposed to that. I just don't want to overly clutter because this is like it's volunteers. If they are volunteering their time to do that. Let's come back to that. I'm going to make a note of that, but I want to table that for a second. Potentially add to leaders, volunteers. Okay, so for maps, the thing with maps is there are different kinds of maps. You've got rotation maps, you've got trial maps, you've got ranked maps, and then you've got a whole slew of other maps that are just like community project things. I think it's a slippery slope if we go beyond the scope of just public games, because then you've got things like your competitive maps, you've got your private group maps like your gravity maps, you've got your shift and things like that, you've got your event maps even. Would that be a category? So I think let's just write the categories that were important for now. It's going to say casual rotation, ranked rotation, trial rotation, and then you've got event maps. Those are all the official map categories that you could have a map in. What else? Because I wouldn't want to have this be a thing that's like all the maps you've ever created, because then you've got this hundreds of maps long list on some profiles. That's not something anyone's ever going to want to parse. It's not going to contribute anything meaningful, like information wise. Isn't there already a community contributor page in the leaderboard? Yes, there is. It's but that's again, that's a flare that people have been awarded for a certain thing. This is not a flare, because you have a flare for getting a map, but are you saying you would have another option for just map makers, and then anybody who's gotten a map? Actually, it's not a bad idea. Then anyone who's gotten a map into rotation and has the blueprint flare, you could have another list of them. Yes, but that would be more under volunteers than community, which is tough. This is already going to have another tab on the way. The MTC is getting its own tab here soon because they are an officially recognized group. Hello, Nanner. All right, back to this for a moment, showing what those people have contributed. Well, I don't want to gloss over it, MC. I want to dive into this here. You're saying that, like, what specifically they did, like Moosin made Starfield. Like, is that what you want to say, or just like Moosin has a map that got into rotation? How much detail are we actually trying to get into here? I think that for the map section, especially with these rotations here, you would want to say the exact map that they got in to the rotation, because just saying you got a map in, that's already kind of been set. If you have that flare, where'd that flare go? Does Moosin not have the blueprint flare? Or am I just blind? He doesn't have it. What? What? Why does... He's had maps in rotation, right? Am I crazy? All right, we'll go to someone else. MC. MC's got a blueprint flare because he has a map that got into the rotation. So if you had this other tab, it wouldn't be useful information to just say has a map in rotation or got a map into rotation, because we already have that in the form of that flare there. So I think you would want to say which maps did they get in to which rotation. Maybe not, since the switch to the blueprint flare instead of the palette. Well, no, this would have to be retroactive, the thing we're talking about now. This would be going back and finding all those things and putting them on the player profile. That would be a community project to help us find those things, because I'm not going through hundreds of profiles and maps to find the people who did all these things. But if you're like, hey, I had a map and it got into rotation, could that be presented on my profile? I think that's a very doable thing. And that's not something that I would have to do specifically, because with that change to add the MTC flare, I'm also adding an MTC admin flare, or role rather. And that would give Moosin the ability to take over that for me, or even somebody else with Moosin could have that role, and they could assign all of those to people over time. So it would be more of a community thing than I need to do this kind of thing. Blueprint flare is not retroactive. That was a decision because we wanted players to continue making maps versus just sitting on their laurels and saying, oh, I made a map 6 years ago, so I got this flare. We wanted people to make more maps as we were trying to kickstart the new MTC format, which I think worked quite well. I think the MTC is in a much, much better place than it was 2 years ago. I think it's hard to disagree with that. So I'm pretty happy with where that stands at this moment. you only had map brilliance years ago. What? I don't know how to respond to that, Fly, because there are two ways I can go with that. The first is that I hope it comes back, and the second is where maps just worse then. Your maps looked better at the time. I don't know anything about maps. I have made like 5 maps and they're all awful. So I have no leg to stand on when it comes to map quality. Your MTC 7 years ago. Did you get your MTC flare? Because the MTC flare is retroactive. That is true. Because if you've been on the MTC at any point, you should have this flask flare. We only have a new flare on the way for current active MTC. So yes, if you have been on the MTC in the past, you are entitled to a map tester flare. If you could get me proof that you were on it and you can send me a link to your profile on Discord, I can make that happen. But not during the stream. I'll do it after. So where were we? Back to this. So I think I'm going to stick with my initial reaction, which is that I want it to show any map that you made that got into a rotation. I don't know how much detail with that necessarily, but it would be for all of these categories. I don't know how to write this properly. For each of the following categories, display the map name and a link to that map or a preview on hover. And that would be kind of like the map pages right now. If you go to the maps page, you can see what the map is just by hovering over it. So something like that on the player profile. So you can say, oh, this person made all of these maps. That's cool. I think that would be nice to have. Imagine not having a Twitch name that's clearly your TP. Yeah, it couldn't be me. Cheese Doodle TP all the way. Everyone thinks it's toilet paper on other streams. Or a preview on hover, or both. And so that would allow us to show casual maps, ranked maps, trial maps, and event maps when they are added. So you can say, okay, I did this. This is my showing off the things I've done. If you're a really good map maker, you have a long list of maps on your profile. That is good. That's cool. Good for you. With music, I think we can do something similar where it's just a list of songs ever in rotation. I don't think we've ever removed a map from the music rotation, but if we did at some point, I think you would keep it there in the future. There's no reason to remove that. With MP3, similar to this here. Whoops. Okay, got that. No song has ever been removed. Thank you, Alba. There was a leaderboard song, but it did not play in game. I don't think I would want that. I don't think I want the site to play music when I'm not in a game. But maybe that's just me. Yeah, Andu, I want to know who this is too. See, I feel like I know who this is. C-Dub? A name sounds vaguely, I don't know. I think you've been on my streams before. That's why I'm recognizing. You Discorded me? Are you okay if I say who you are to the stream? If it loads. Oh, you're C-Dub. Your name is C-Dub. You are Goblin. Oh! What? Goblin, you were... What? Lore drop. I had no idea that you were on the MTC. That's really funny. You got the whole spreadsheet and everything? Fly's having the same reaction. I'm going to pull this up real quick. This is MTC applicants. Check this out. Wait, where'd it go? Come back. Doxed. We've got all of these names. Where do I see the initial testing? My name is Cheese Doodle, sorry. Go to Maps tab. What am I missing? You're Archduke. Holy feedback, wow. This is such an insanely detailed, like all of these have comments on them. This is nuts. I'm having trouble absorbing all this information. Now, red is going to be active MTC fly. So if you want to be a current MTC, you will get a red flask flare in the near future. But the historical MTC flare is going to stay as the green flask. All right. Not a great system. Yeah, the new system is definitely better. So I guess this is enough proof for me. Do you want to send me a link to your account and I can award that right now? And then you can go show it off. But let's see. Texture packs, same idea. I think it would just be... Would you do the name or would you do a preview? MC, this is a question for you because you make texture packs. Would you put the name and a preview just like on the profile page, or would you just do a name? Like you've got all these profile, or what do you call them? Previews. But I'd be worried they take up a lot of space. But do any of these have like more than... How many does Magic Pigeon have? 15. Holy moly. Seriously? All of our texture packs are Magic Pigeon? That's nuts. Okay, well, other than Magic Pigeon, I don't think anyone has too many. And honestly, if you get that many in, good for you. I don't really have a problem with that being an insane list. Anonymous 3. Does Dave have a couple? No, Dave just has one. All the good ones? Yeah. If it was a preview where you hover over the name and it pops up, that would be cool. I agree. I think that's a good answer. Name only preview of texture pack appears on hover. Yep, I think that's the right call. Thank you. Okay, I've got a link to Goblin's account. And now you all get to see behind the scenes how a flare... Actually, let me do this on a different screen to make sure it's not sensitive information first. Yeah, this is fine. Okay. So this is the flare for the MTC. All right, Goblin, you're in. Ta-da! We should probably change this to historical map tester or any time map tester or something like that, but we can worry about that later. Could do the same for maps actually. MC, do you mean like the preview with the hover thing? I think that's what we got here. We should probably also note for the maps for each of the following categories, display the map name and a link to that map under the corresponding map header. And just a quick sub note for that, if a map gets into the trial rotation and then is promoted to the full rotation, I think that we would remove it from the trial rotation list unless somebody disagrees. I wouldn't want it duplicated. And it's only a trial map if it never makes it to the full rotation. Because if you've got a map that gets into the full rotation, you don't care about the fact that it was in trial. You care about the fact that it got into the actual rotation. Remove map from trial if they make it to full rotation. The MTC folder permissions are actually very strictly monitored. I went through it about a week and a half ago with Moosin, and we removed anybody who's not currently on the MTC. So that is definitely up to date. Oh, there's a new folder. I don't know if there's an old folder. I have no idea, but the current folder the MTC uses is up to date with access. Now act what I said about flare names. What? Can I gripe a little bit about whack some flare names are? If you had to guess, what do you think Pumpkin Collector is? What is pumpkin? I don't know. What is Pumpkin Collector? Easy as pumpkin pie? Where is this Pumpkin Collector flare? Read up. I'm not used to having people actually chatting on my streams. It's throwing me off here. Found the same sheet. It's all shared. Dynamite? Oh. Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten that. Thank you. All right, Pumpkin Collector. That could be you. Is that the year that we added the rolling bomb and we had the Halloween event where you had to collect the pumpkins and the pumpkins were actually a rolling bomb pup and that's how you defeated the Jimmies? Because you had to test like the manual rolling bomb. Is that I think that's what that. Because we were trying. We made an event to kind of force people to use the new feature that we had made, and you're exploding, so it's dynamite. But you only exploded by getting pumpkins. Yeah. I built my auth from empty. All right. My counterpoint, Fly, is that I was not on the future group when that flare was added. You were, so you can gripe with yourself on that one if you want to have a problem with it. I was the head mod. I was only around. I was not actually a member. Anyway, we've been derailed. Back to the back to this. So this is actually a lot simpler than I was fearing it would be. I think this is very straightforward. I think the hardest part is linking the maps to the profile. How would we go about that? I wouldn't want that to have to be something manual going forward. I think manually for backfilling things that have happened already, that makes sense. But for going forward, this would probably tie into an integration of fortunate maps or maybe an integration of like the Discord auth that we've talked about in the past. I'm just thinking behind the scenes, how would you know that a TagPro profile is responsible for a map that is in rotation? There are names associated with maps, but we can't rely on that because you have name changes. If a player changes their name, that is not reflected on the map data, and we can't change that. So it would be when the map is actually promoted, it's promoted while having some sort of association with an existing account. And that almost leans me towards submitting maps for consideration through the site, but that doesn't work for ranked because ranked is just a discussion. So you would have to have the player profile linked directly to the map data on Fortunate Maps, and then when that map is actually added, it triggers this, where it awards the actual flare or adds the map to their list. Yeah, we don't need to know those details right now. I think that works fine to be automated. It would just require a couple extra considerations at the same time. For things like music and texture packs, I think that's fine to have it be manual there. I don't really see a way to have that automated. And those don't happen as frequently, obviously, as maps do. So I don't think we need to worry too much about that. So, what else? Is there anything else that is contribution based that is official? I'm thinking about like flares. Do we have to have some sort of this person helped make a flare on their profile? Would we want to attribute that to anybody? Because a lot of those flares, like the originals, are just Lucky Spammer on his own, or he like the Future Group put together some stuff, and it was kind of a back and forth. So it's hard to attribute a lot of those to any one person. But more recently, with a lot of the incoming shop flares, we have been building them like with a specific goal in mind. So for the season flares, for example, these were both made by a single person. I made this one. Glass Marble made this one. The Phoenix flare is Glass Marble made this one. So it's, what do you mean leak? What am I leaking? Like who made them? Oh, you mean the incoming flares for the shop? Gotcha. Yeah, no, I'm not leaking that. Glass Marble made pretty much all of these based on what we had asked him to make. We kind of gave them an outline of what we wanted it to look like. So it's a little bit skewed because you have a very small group of people who have made a bulk of the flares. And then a lot of these ones aren't really attributed to anybody specific because they were like reskins of an existing image. Like Lucky Spammer went to a site that had icons and then colored them in. Basically, it was a little more than that, but that's my easy summary. So it's not like any one person gets credit for them. Pingu added a bunch of these more recently, so I'm like, I feel like it's not really worth going into the details of who is responsible for all of these, but I think for maps, that's more of a community-driven thing. So I'm gonna draw the line there. I'm gonna say not flares, yes maps, yes music, yes texture packs, because that's community driven. So that's my line. The other consideration now, because that was quicker than I thought it was going to be, is like a trophy case beyond what we've just talked about. So before that, does anybody have any other things they think should be added to this? Maps, music and texture packs, or are those three easy enough to keep on their own? Your stream is way behind. Sorry to hear that. I can't really think of anything else that people do that needs to be called out or recognized. Who's competing with my stream? I'll allow it. Like replays, highlights. I don't really see a role for that. Competitive, we'll talk about in a minute. Feedback, no. Yeah, I think that's a good enough list of three for now. So let us change gears a little bit and say, what unofficial things? Do we want to have some sort of unofficial recognition? And I'm a little hesitant. We're going to explore it. I'm not going to promise this because I'm a little hesitant to commit to it, knowing that there's already a lot of effort going in on the side of the leagues, for example, to have their own internal recognition. Like Fly, for example, in the stream here, has been working on a site that's going to have a lot of stats, a lot of like updates for the current season, things that are going on. You have your TagPro League accolades. You have your TagPro reference that Tumblewood made. So there are other sites that are more specific to ranked that have those kind of accolades on them. Sorry for that double word there. I don't want to put work into a thing that people are already putting work into and have them be kind of competing head to head. I'd rather have one thing that is for a certain purpose and another thing for a different purpose. And there might be room to bring one over to the other in the future, but I don't know. I'm hesitant is my answer. But let's talk about the things that you would recognize anyway. You would recognize championships. You'd recognize kind of captaincy, commissioner. Those are all things people do for the league. Commissioner. What else do people do for leagues that would be worthy of recognition but not really official? And even beyond that, you've got like social media stuff. It doesn't have to be leagues necessarily. Social media posts. Like tournament runners, like the Home Mix got the tournament going right now. Is that a thing that you would call out for? And I don't love it, but I do want to consider it while we're here. Chat's gone quiet. It's a bad sign. Oh my god, from Andrew. Could be most games played ranked season. I don't think we need to do that just because you already have the leaderboard that shows how many games you played. Like if you go back in the seasons, you can see how many games everybody had. I don't think we need to necessarily call that out specifically. Holy moly, that's a lot of games. Holy moly. Is that the highest? No, now I kind of want to know. Now that you got me looking. Hold on. 607, 682. My God. 700? 1.9? What? All right. That is. Toity, you need to take a break. This is my. Toity, are you here? You're not here. Toity, this is a message for you. Take a breather. Just like a day. Take a breather. Okay, someone send that to him, please. Moving on. That's a lot of games. That's wow. Wow. You have more? Really? Where are you, Nanner? Only do community organizer recognition on the site if you're prepared to keep it updated. I know the Discord roles are way behind until very recently. Yes, you're in the gutter. Yeah, that's a good point, Andrew, and I think that kind of plays into what I was mentioning with official versus unofficial, because unofficial things, it's hard for us to keep track of exactly what's going on. Like, I don't personally know who won the most recent season of Egg Ball League. It's not a thing that I kind of keep track of, but it is also a league that happened. It's also a community thing that happened, but it is not official. So it's hard for us to promise to stay up to date on things that we are not monitoring at any regular cadence. I want to find Nanner here. Nanner, what name did you play as in season 1? Damon, there you are. No, you're not even close. You had less than half. Less than half of what Toity had. There is an account that hasn't played in 10 plus years named Goblin. I have to use a lowercase L. Oh yeah, we have account recovery. Yeah, that's a thing. If you go to the Discord on the official Discord, there is a mod help channel. Above that is a mod info channel. If you go to there, there are instructions for how to submit a account recovery request. We could also merge it into the account that you're using now, so you keep all of your flares, you gain all of your wins back for your degree flares and things like that. So yeah, that's all very doable for us, and it's pretty easy as well. So yeah, go find that channel and we can get you set up. Where was I going with this? Okay, I think that Anduin has officially talked me down from doing this just because it's not really viable to draw the line on when things become worth recognizing, because I could have a tournament with 7 of my closest friends who don't play TagPro and say, hey, we did a thing, I should get an accolade for completing that tournament and hosting it and whatnot. And that's like, it's not really anything close to the same scale as running MLTP, for example. So yeah, I think we're going to keep it to official things only, just because I don't feel like diving down that rabbit hole right now, and we're going to call it good. I do still feel like we're missing something, though, on these 3 categories. Like, what are things that people need to do for the game to keep moving forward, or things that we kind of present as the game, even though they were done by the community? Like I think about the artwork things. Like, you've got the little icons up here at the top of the screen. It's kind of hard to see. I can't zoom in on this, but if you look at your own browser, there's a little koala at the top of your screen. That was a thing that Pingu made that I think is great and very cute, and it improves the experience of the website because it's a nice little icon. If you're playing a game, I don't know if it works on replays, let's find out. But nope, it doesn't. Okay, but if you're in a game, you'll see it's holding a little ball instead, so it's a cute little thing, but it's not a texture pack. It's not a map, it's not music, but it is a thing that somebody from the community did, and it's kind of diving into the flares again. Like, these are things that people put time into and they made, but it's hard to attribute them always to a certain person. Visualization of power-ups. You're on the phone with work IT. That's fun. Yeah, like script makers, like you've got your rolling 300 script that was kind of the basis for a lot of the changes that we made. But again, that just feels like it's hard to draw a line of when does a script become worthy of recognition. I don't know. If we had like an official list of scripts that were like customizable, these are things you can add to your page, then that might be something worth saying, okay, if you get your script on this list of scripts, then that is an official thing now, but we don't have that list really to work off of, so that can't happen just yet. You got something? What you got? Let's hear it. Tutorials? Is that something that... Better chat filters. We do have a spec for a more refined chat filter, which might be what you're describing. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick for you. This was a request that we got from someone who said that they wanted their kid to play basically, but it's hard for their kid to play when there's certain messages being sent, but those messages don't really break the code of conduct as it stands now. So the request was, could there be a more refined chat filter that will filter out things like explicit content, like your vulgar language, things to that of that nature? Where did this go? Oh, this was a... Did we do this on stream? This might have been a more in-depth thing. Let me check the folder that I have. Sanitized chat feature. Here it is. Yes. So it was a request from somebody who... Public games crosses lines that are not worthy of direct moderation, may not be suitable for a younger audience. For example, the reserved name that is a swear word. So an opt-in sanitized chat feature that would remove swear words, that would remove innuendos, that would remove things like that, has been requested. We built a whole spec for it. This is a not terribly complicated thing to add. I think the harder part of this is actually building that filter, because filters are hard to make, is the simplest way to put it. It takes a lot of time to catch all the edge cases and make sure that they are robust enough that you can catch variations of words as well, so people don't dodge the filter. This one's a little bit easier because people aren't intentionally trying to dodge it because they don't know if their message was hit by it. But TagPro, yeah. But it is still something that would take a little bit of time to actually implement. But this is a not common request, but a request we have received before. And it does make sense if we're thinking about a younger audience, but without trying to stifle the players who are not in that younger audience, to have a different set of chat rules for those two groups. Yep. Yeah, so this is exactly what you're requesting there, Rad Dude. This is a whole thing we've got planned. I don't know when we'll get to it, but it is something that we have on our radar. Again, there are almost 300 different tickets open of things we want to do, so it's a matter of priority, but we are working on it. You tried to legitimately use the word regarded in chat, but it was censored. Yeah, we had to add that to the hard filter that blocks everything, because like 99% of the uses were people trying to get around the actual word filter that we have, so it's unfortunately not a thing we can allow people to use. There are a couple of we still have some false hits every day that I'm still working on refining them. It's definitely better than it was, but it's hard. Like I said, chat filters are hard to make, so I'm working on it. All right. Any other considerations? We've still got like 15 minutes here, but I don't have anything else to really talk about. Let me check the form, make sure I didn't get any anonymous questions. I don't see any. I think the chat filter should be one of the first things added. Well, if you want to go upvote the post for that, feel free. I think there is a somewhere in here. Maybe it's not. Well, you can always submit a request to our new feedback board on Discord if you want. You can put that in, and I can link the form, the page that I have here, so you can see the full specs on your own time if you want. Pre-game map modifier? No. We tried mirrored maps. That was a bad experiment. I think everyone remembers those. Nobody enjoyed when they had to play on a map that was backwards from what they're used to playing on. That was bad. There's also the April Fool's event from 2018, I think, 19, where maps would rotate as you were playing them. And from an April Fool's standpoint, fantastic. From a people who have a vertigo standpoint, awful, because people who are watching it are trying to play and getting headaches while they were playing because everything kept moving as they were trying to play. And yeah, we had to remove that because it was not well received by a certain audience. So unfortunate. You have another one? Well, you could say it to me, but if you want it to last, I would say put it in the chat on Discord so we can have a little combo there. Because I can talk about things, but I don't submit stuff all the time to that thread on Discord. So it should be something anyone can view now on the Discord. It's the forum. Got a ping. What's this ping about? Oh, thank you, Yelpa. A way to only play mini games. There is technically a way to do that if you want. You can go to TagPro. You can queue up for ranked. You can select Oceanic ranked, and you can select mini games. And for mini games, have your region selected, and it will only put you into mini games on US East and US Central, unless there happen to be 7 other Oceanic players online. But you will see, I have now gotten into a mini game, and it was very easy to do without any extra consideration. So that is a thing you could do if you want. And it's not an intended feature, but it is a functional feature. So feel free to make use of that if you so choose. Nana, you're saying a lot of things. I am not following any of them, in truth. I think I recognized this one, the replay controls no end scrubbing. I think that's saying that when a replay ends, you want the ability to scrub back in the replay. That is something we have a ticket for. OSU lolcow says, that's messed up that the hack is just to abuse the corpse of Oceania like that. You're not wrong. You're not wrong, but it does work. So take that as you will. How does it stop you from getting into a ranked match? It doesn't, but as OSU lolcow said, there is nobody else queuing Oceanic ranked right now, and so you will not get pulled into an Oceanic ranked game. So it's abusing that fact, but it does work. So if you're looking for results, that's an option for you. That's all. That's all I'm saying. All right, C-Dub, I got your ticket for the account recovery. I'll get that after the stream is all wrapped up here. I might just call this one early. We're 10 minutes short, but I'm out of things to say. So I'm going to give it, I'll give it a minute and a half. If nothing else comes up in the next minute and a half, I am going to call it. But just to give you a little preview of next week, the plan is to do the same thing as usual. Maybe a little bit of a sneak peek of the shop. I'm not going to show you too many flares, but I might have 1 or 2 just to sprinkle it in. How do you feel about the current state of the ranked leaderboard? When you say state, do you mean that it's working? Because I'm very happy with the fact that it's working. That's been a big project to get this to actually function. Or do you mean the actual players on it right now? Because if that's the case, I prefer the neutral flag one, where I'm still somehow in tier 1 based on that 5-game win streak. How do we patch out Russ being challenger? I would say play more games, because the more people who play, the less likely it is Russ actually wins games, because Russ is bad at the game. Damn, he's in 4th place right now? What? Nah, it's bugged. You're right. That's bad. Bad leaderboard. You posted in Maps General, but no answer yet. I would say give it an hour or 2, because a lot of people are at work right now at 2 p.m. on a Friday. Working on arguments for fair ELO for science reasons we'll share another time. Nanner, just for your own research purposes, we do not have an ELO system. We have a skill score system, which is based on open skill. So if you're looking things up, OPEN skill. not elo. Different systems. Make TagPro emoji reacts only, then it will be really easy to make a filter for naughty strings. That has been proposed in the past. I'm not sure how we would go about doing that from a community standpoint. I think we would get a lot of pushback for removing chat. We could have a emote only option if you don't want to see chat and then add emotes, but I think that just adds in more complexity, because how do you send an emote? It have to be like macro based. I mean, it's not that it's not doable. It would require a little bit more of a conversation. So that could be next week's stream conversation. If you want to reach out on Discord, we could chat about it and come up with a plan for that. But for now, I wouldn't say that's overly viable. But long term, probably could do that. If people change names between ranked seasons on the same account, you can see their old names by looking at their replays. Is this intended functionality? Yes. Is there any plans to fix the elo? What is broken about the skill score system that you think needs to be fixed is my answer to that. Because I feel like it's working pretty well from a standpoint of creating matchups. Oh, wow. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 7 tiers right now. Look at us. 7 tiers of active players. That's huge. That's more than we got last season. Last season, we ended up at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Nice. Good work, everyone. Like it bounces all over. It bounces. Oh, okay. So I think what you're describing is that at the end of games, you will see large gains and large losses for a lot of players. That is expected right now because at the start of seasons, it is following a reset. We have a soft reset. So all the players who ended up at the edges of the skill score distribution, if you will, after season 1, get crunched down toward the middle. So their order stays the same. If you were in first place at the end of season 1, you are still in first place at the start of season 2, but you are a lot closer to everybody else in the community. With that said, your certainty also is cut down to the starting point. So the game is very uncertain for how good you actually are at the game. And because of that, when you win a game or lose a game, it swings a lot more. So it's a lot, think about it as like a pendulum, right? At the start of the season, you pull that pendulum way up and you drop it, and it swings a lot back and forth depending on wins and losses back and forth. But as the game gets more certain, that pendulum swings less and less. So further along in the season, that pendulum is going to move a lot less, and it starts to settle down on your actual skill score where it figures out you are about this good at TagPro. But until it knows that you are that good, it has to keep trying out those other options to figure out if you're actually rated correctly or not. Because Ouch My Balls could play really well in season 1. Maybe he moves to, I don't know, Ireland, and he's got terrible ping now to Chicago, and he's actually bad at the game now. We wouldn't want him to start off really high up and just be locked into the top because he's playing at a lot lower quality now. The game needs to know that they can figure out where he actually is this time around. And there are other factors that can change how good you are at the game, obviously, other than moving to Ireland, but it needs to know or check in every season to make sure that it is actually accurately rating people. So as the season continues, you will not see that jumping around as much because the game becomes more confident in whatever skill score it has placed you at. Feel free. Ireland's lovely. I've heard very good things. This is a vibes thing that didn't really study it. If you have a tie/void early on when your gains are higher because your uncertainty is high, does that tie increase your certainty and therefore make you gain less in your next game? I don't think that voids impact your certainty. I could double check that. You will still see those larger movements up or down if you win or lose a void. Actually, no, that's not true. I think in a tie, there is no adjustment to the certainty, but if you win a void, it does still increase your certainty a percentage of the win, the same as where your elo, or your, God, I did it myself, the skill score is cut. So we say prorated wins. If it's a 3-0 win and it voids, you don't get as much of a gain as if it was a 3-0 game that went to completion. You get a prorated win, which means it's less than it would have been if it went the full length. And I think that same proration applies to your certainty at the same time. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, feel free to ask a follow-up. As in how much you plus minus after a game. I think that's the same note. But I'm pretty happy with the system overall. I think it's done what it's supposed to do. I don't see, other than a few rare exceptions, I don't see anybody who's not supposed to be at the top, which is good. OFM Dojo versus like AI or others while waiting. Yes, we have a developer currently working on a machine learning model trying to get basically bots in games. We haven't gotten it working yet because it's a very complicated project, but if we do get that working, an AI OFM would become a possibility. Remove current thing emoji graveyard. Steam reviewers will crucify the game. What? Remove current thing emoji what does that mean? Current thing emoji graveyard. I have no idea what that's supposed to be. I'm sorry. We have like the graveyard flare, like the. Do you mean like the? Where'd it go? Like the tombstone flare that we have? Do we even have a tombstone flare? I thought we did. Here it is. Yeah. Do you mean that? Oh, current thing, like current events. You're talking about the Ukraine flares. Those are the only ones that we have, other than the Reddit one, I think. And I don't think we need to remove those personally, so I don't think we're going to. But do we have other ones? I don't think. I mean, we're not planning to add more of them, but there's no reason to remove the flares that already exist. That just seems unnecessary. COVID, yeah, that was a thing that happened. Again, no reason to remove those. We're not going to add in more of them, but basically just asking what you said you weren't sure about. Does a 0/0 void impact your certainty? Oh, yeah, I'm going to go with no is my current answer. I don't think that it does. Yeah, I mean, unless there's like a whole world changing, like if the Earth gets hit by a giant meteor, maybe I'll consider adding in a meteor. Like, I don't know. I can't really make that call right now, but I'm not planning to add, like, we should do things that are fun, that are events that we add more flares for. We should have a shop that people want flares for. Like, there's no reason to have to rely on external factors to decide what we do for flares. But yeah, all right. I think that's enough for today. War? No, war is not fun. I am anti-war. We should stop having wars. That's my personal belief. But we are at 90 minutes, so unless anyone has anything that I can talk about in 30 seconds or less, I'm going to call it. Did I see my message? So like my ELO will be at 429, lose a game, drops to 311. You should not be losing 118 in a single game. If you've lost 118, message us, because that's too much. How do I like my coffee? I do not drink coffee. I have had 2 coffees in my entire life, and I will not be having any more. Thank you all for tuning in. I said next week, MC. Next week. Yeah, no caffeine. I'm anti-caffeine. I just wake up. I'm built different. That's a joke. Moving on. All right. End of the stream. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Friday. I hope you have a nice weekend as well. I will see you all next Friday for another stream. And if you have anything in the meantime, reach out and we will chat on Discord. Enjoy. Goodbye.